Hey guys, this is Melanie Daly, your back pain personal trainer. This exercise is called cat-cow. So it's actually a very common and well-known yoga pose, but we're gonna talk through it in a little bit more detail because execution is really important here, and also knowing why you're doing it so that you can get the most out of it and also not hurt yourself depending on your unique circumstance. So you're gonna start on your hands and your knees. And like we've been doing, I'll show you the general movement first and then we'll talk through it. So you're gonna start just in a neutral position here. And the idea here is to round your spine, the entirety of your spine as much as possible, and then arch it as much as possible. So you'll notice with me, obviously you know I have scoliosis and rods in my back, so for me the rounding part is pretty difficult for me. So I'm not the best person to show this, but generally you're trying to round the spine, so create that C position with your spine, and then create that reverse C, so arching the back. So let's talk through it a little bit. The idea here is to increase mobility in the entirety of your spine. So that's all the way from your pelvis, through the lumbar spine, through the mid-back, thoracic, upper back, and even the neck. We forget that the neck is part of our spine. So what a lot of people will do if they're doing this in yoga, which is not necessarily harmful, is just kind of like go through it like this, but it's not really working on increasing that mobility at each and every articulation or joint vertebrae of the spine. So we really want to think through this, be a little bit more thoughtful so that we can actually increase that range of motion. So we have to ask our body to increase our range of motion and flexibility. That means really working through it. So when we're working on our rounding, I want you to really spread your fingers into the mat, and you're gonna use your hands to push away from the mat to get as much rounding through the shoulders, through the upper back, and then notice you're tucking the tailbone under, so we're actually working on our pelvic mobility here too. And really putting tension into this movement as opposed to being passive. So that's the big difference, being proactive in it and really creating that tension, asking your body to increase that flexibility as opposed to just sort of, you know, going through the motions of the movement. And then for the reverse part of the movement, you're gonna pull your shoulders down and back. So you can actually pretend like you're pulling your hands towards you without actually moving them. You're just pulling them down, pulling the shoulders down and back as opposed to leaving them up here. And then notice I'm pushing back with my low back and my pelvis to get that nice arch throughout the entirety of my spine. So again, we're really thinking through it, and I'm driving tension with my hands. I'm pulling them towards me without actually moving them to really increase that activation in the shoulders and the lats. And then we want to move through it with some fluidity. So instead of kind of jerking around, we're going to transition from here, slowly trying to move each and every vertebrae of the spine. And now we're rounding, really pushing away from the mat with those hands. So again, the main thing to think about here is being more proactive and really thinking through asking your body to increase its range of motion in that entirety of your spine. So that is cat-cow.